Hey there, nation. Welcome to the show where we show you how to play a miniatures war game on a budget. It is I, Commander's CheapSkate, and today is another edition of Ninth Age. This is battle report number 9. This is a 2,500 report battle report between myself with my House Robin, the Wardens of Tor Halcyon, my Highborn's army, versus Burps O' Blood of Stinkgum's Legion of the Ogre Khans. So let's see what happens when 2,500 points worth of ogres as well as Highborn Elves kind of clash it out. I'm really excited about this one because not many YouTubers are actually playing with Highborn Elves for battle reports, and so I decided to try this army out. I played Ogre Khans in Ninth Age for the longest time, and I wanted to try something different. I wanted to try the Highborn Elves. It was kind of funny because when I first started off in this hobby, the High Elves were the very first army I played, and so now it's kind of like going back to my roots, which is actually kind of fun. So yeah, let's go ahead and see how this battle report turns out in this one.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and talk about my Highborn army, the House Robin, the Wardens of Tor Halcyon. It is a 2,500 point Highborn Elves army. So let's go ahead and start with my lords and hero choices. First of all, we have Shade Robin. He is the Warden of Tor Halcyon. He is a High Elf Prince with a High Warden of the Flame upgrade. He's also got heavy armor, shield, as well as equipped with the Spear of the Blazing Dawn. After him, we have Silent Fane. He is my Archmage with the Asphad Scholar upgrade. He's got a level 4 upgrade as well, and he's packing Book of Melodies. And then finally, for my last hero choice, we have Tanis Robin, Captain of the Guards. He is a commander with the Fleet Officer honor. He's got a Battle Standard Bearer upgrade, heavy armor, shield, halberd, banner of courage, as well as a cloak of stars. For my core choices, we have Tor Halcyon Guards, which are 23 Sea Guard with full command. After that, we have the Dawn Patrol, which is 8 aligned reavers with bows, and the Aegis Watch, which are 10 highborn lancers with full command, as well as the War Banner. For my special choices, we have the Sad Flutes, which are 19 Sword Masters with full command, as well as the Banner of Becalming, the Ever Wardens, who are 23 Flame Wardens with full command, and the Queen's Rangers, which are 15 Lion Guards with full command, skirmish upgrade, as well as a Flaming Standard. And for my rare choice on this one, we have the Reigns of Halcyon, which are 2 Sea Guard Reapers with repeating shots. And that makes up my army for this one. Alright, so let's talk about my opponent's army. This is Burps O' Blood, Stinkgum's Legion, which is a 2,500 point Ogre Khans army. For his Lord and Heroes, he has Stinkgum, who's a great shaman with an Iron Fist. Next comes Kaidu Khan. He is a Khan with a Battle Standard Bearer upgrade, Ogre Crossbow, as well as Iron Fist and Banner Discipline. His next hero choice is Kogon the Tracker. He is a Mammoth Hunter with an Ogre Crossbow, Tusker, Axe of Battle, as well as a Hardened Shield, and another Mammoth Hunter, the Wanderer. He is armed with, of course, the Tusker, the Skull Splitter, as well as Lucky Shield. For our core choices, we have the Ravagers, which are 10 tribesmen with full command, heavy armor, and Iron Fist, as well as the Ard Bastards, which are 6 bruisers with full command, and the Skull of Queen Get. For our special choice, we have the Boomers, which are 4 Bombardiers. After that, we have the Red Rovers, which are 4 Tusker Cavalry with Standard Bearer and Iron Fist, and Little Suicider, who is a Saber-Tooth Tiger. And then for my opponent's rare choices, he has 2 choices. He has the Sound of the Fury, which are 2 Thunder Cannons, as well as a Rock named Fraggle Rock. So this is my opponent's army for this one. Alright, so now it's time for deployment. As you can see in this battle report, we're playing on a 4x6 table. We got 2,500 points on each side. My High Elf army is on the near side of the board, while my opponent's Stankum's Legion is on the far side of the board. So let's break it down to the individual deployment zones. Alright, so here's the deployment for the High Elves left flank. As you kind of see there, I went with like a whole kind of deny flank. Use the table edge to make up my left flank so that way I can't be outflanked on that position. As you can see right here on the left-hand side, I got majority of my army here. I got my Sea Guard located there in the Halcyon guards, which are my 24 Sea Guard with including the Battle Center Bearer, are located in the far left. In the center there, making up my center, is the Flame Wardens. That's also included my general in that unit as well. He's the High Elf Prince of the High Warden of the Flame. Right next to them, you have my my 19 Sword Masters with the Wizard, my Archmage, is located there as well. That's Silent Fane, right there, the guy in blue cloak right there in the center. And the very far right-hand side, near the forest, we have my Ever Warden, my Ever Queen's Rangers, which are my 15 White Lions. Sorry, not White Lions, Lion Guards, sorry. They're located right there. They're kind of like in a formation trade, but they also got skirmishers. And then right behind them, you, of course, have the Reigns of Tor Halcyon, and those are my 2 Repeater Bolt Throwers with Repeater Upgrade. Alright, so here's the center portion of the board. Basically, my cavalry's making my right-hand flank. As you can see there in the middle, I have my Aegis Watch, which is my 10 Highborn Lancers, and then right next to me, the Dawn Patrol, which is my 8 Aline Reavers. And that pretty much makes up my deployment for this one. Alright, so let's talk about Stankum's Legion's deployment here on the left-hand side. You can see there we have the Boomers with the 4 Bombardiers over there. Next to them with the Hard Bastards with the 6 Bruisers located there with their Skull of Queen Gets Standard Bearer. Right there, that big white monster right there, that is the Fraggle Rock. That is the Rocker Rock. He's located there in the center portion there. And right next to him is that huge unit of 10 tribesmen. Inside that tribes unit is also Stankum, his Great Shaman, as well as his Battle Standard Bearer Kaidu Khan. And of course, on the right there on the top of the hill, he has the Sound of the Fury, which are his 2 Thunder Cannons on this part. So yeah, that makes up the deployment for the left-hand flank of his army. And here's the deployment for the center as well as the right side of the board for Stankum's Legion. As you can see, you have the little Suicider. That's the Saber Tigers on his own right down the side of the hill there, as well as the two Thunder Cannons, the Sound, the Fury, make up the center portion of the board. And over on the far right-hand side here, you got the Red Rovers, which are the four Tusker Cavalry models, and then right next to them it comes Kogan, the Tracker. He is the great weapon-wielding Mammoth Hunter on Tusker. On the very far right-hand side there, you got the Wanderer. He's the one who's equipped with Skull Splitter, and he's also mounted up on mounted up on a Tusker Well, and that's his last Mammoth Hunter. So that makes it the plan for this battle. So let's go with top of turn number 1. All right, with that, we go to the top of turn number 1. After movement phase, I get to go first. The reason why is because I deploy my entire army all at once, so that way I can get the 1-up when I decide to deploy. So because of that, I got the bonuses to go first. And as you can see here, basically the idea was pretty simple. I decided to go the defied flank type of tactic to kind of protect my left, so that way he has to kind of approach me from my areas from my choice. So as you can see, that I kind of arranged my units in such a way. As you can see here, I just basically kind of advanced everything forward just a little bit, starting off with my Sea Guards, my Tor Halcyon Guards, as well as my Everwardens, as well as my Sad Flutes. Basically, I just moved up the minimum of 5 inches right next to that little area there, so that way if my opponent tried to charge us through the trees, or he'll take some dangerous terrain tests, and so he has to basically go through that main gap there in the center, so that way I can kind of bottleneck him and locate in that section there. As you can see on the right-hand side, however, I sent my Everwardens, I marched up their full allowance, because they're skirmishers, and they kind of get that kind of a bonus. So I move up to that forest there to start occupying us, so that way they gain stubborn, they get in the forest. And as you see on the right-hand side there, what I did is I moved up my excuse me, I moved up my Aegis Watch as well as my Dawn Patrol. I moved to the Aegis Watch the full 9 inches that they can move up, and then I marched, of course, my Dawn Patrol so that we can start shooting my opponents. So yeah, that makes a movement on this side. Here's a close-up of all my infantry units. They're just kind of like moving up there so that they could take a bottleneck positions in that gap between the building as well as the forest. I'm kind of playing on the defensive end and actually have them advance towards me. And then, of course, I have my Lion Guards on the right-hand side to kind of secure that flank there. So that's a close-up of all my infantry units. And here's a close-up of my cavalry units. As you can see, I got my Aegis Watch kind of holding up the center there. And the far right-hand side, I have my Dawn Patrol kind of taking positions located there. So yeah, with movement out of the way, we go directly on to the shooting phase. Alright, so in the magic phase, the very first spell I get off is Blessing of Hamar. That's basically the spell that allows me to give a 5-up ward save to any one of my units of my choice. So you can see that kind of cast it there onto the Aegis Watch in case they get charged at by those massive cavalry units. And now they have, not only do they have the heavy armor and the barding as well, but now they also have a 5-up ward save too. That little pink dice on the right hand side, that counts as my shield counter. Basically, whenever my unit takes a wound, I can negate one of those wounds by using up my shield counter for that unit. So yeah, that's magic phase on this part. However, to get that spell off, I did roll a perfect 12 to get it, and that's where the problem comes in.
Klaatu, Veranda.
Which in the long run wasn't so bad. Basically, all that happened is that all my friendly casters in my army basically take a hit with the wound. Since I don't have any sword saves up on my wizard, he did lose one wound in this combat, and because of that effect. But since I only have the one caster, it wasn't as bad as it could have been. So yeah, and with that, we continue on with the magic phase after this part. After that, I cast another spell called the Hidden Path. And now, okay, now before we go any further with this battle report, I just want to let you guys know ahead of time that this battle report, I kind of consider to be like, I made a mistake on this one, alright? On the path, the Hidden Path ability, what it does, it gives your unit ethereal, and what it does is that because it gives you ethereal, you can perform a magic move that lets you move up to 8 inches or 16 inches if you boost it up with the boosted version. Now, when we read the rules, we assumed, my opponent and I, we both assumed that what happened was that when you cast the spell, the unit that got targeted with the ethereal special rule got the ethereal rule for the remainder of the game is what we basically, not the remainder of the game, sorry, for the remainder of the turn is what we thought. So we thought it was kind of like a buff spell that lasts a turn, but that is incorrect. The ethereal special rule only applies for that immediate movement that you make for your unit, and that's about it. Now, the reason why I bring that up is because this ethereal special rule that we put on these units that I have in my army ends up actually drastically impacting the game. So because that, I just want to keep you guys aware of that. We are aware that the ethereal rule does not last the entire turn. It just uses it for the magic phase. For the purpose of movement. We know that now, but at the time that we did this, we actually did not know that at the time. And so, yeah. So right now, we apologize for that, for the mistakes that we made. And, yeah, we're sorry. Alright, with movement and apologies out of the way, we decided to go directly into the shooting phase. You can see in this photo, what I did is I attacked with my Sea Guard. Those are my Tor Halcyon Guards. All 24 of those I opened up with volley firebirds. I forgot how many shots I managed to get off at the end. But in the end, though, I only managed to kill one of the bombardiers and put a floating wound onto the third bombardier as well. So that part was kind of sad. But the nice part was because they took 25% casualties, they had to take a panic test. And when they took that panic test, they basically failed their panic test. So he must have killed the popular guy in that unit because once they did that, they took a leadership test. Now, he wasn't within 12 inches of his battle center bearer or his general either, so those guys were on the very far flank on themselves. So because of that, they turned tail and they ran off the board, which is pretty awesome for me. So I thought that was kind of funny. It was sad for Burps of Blood, my opponent, but I thought it was hilarious. But anyways, yeah. So that's what happened here in the shooting phase on this side of the board. All right, and shooting here in the middle of the table here, I take my bolt throwers, I open up on those two thunder cannons. One didn't miss for one of the thunder cannons, and the other one did make it shot. However, when it came to roll, I rolled a 1 on that one, so it ended up being a perfect combination of epic failure for my part. So because of that, there are no wounds associated with those guys. So yeah, that makes up shooting, and since there's no close combat, we go directly on to the top of turn 2 for the Ogre Khans. All right, so this is the bottom of turn number 1 after movement phase for the Ogre Khans. As you can see here, basically he just sends up everything moving as quickly as he possibly can for his troops. As you can see there, because my white lions were located, my white lions, my lion guards were located there, he had to basically take leadership tests to figure out if his guys can march out because those guys are technically being march blocked. Luckily for my opponent, all of his units passed their marching test, leadership test, so they could march. Now, like I said before, we made an error with the rules and we thought that the ethereal special rule applied to them during combat. So because of that, my opponent decided not to charge my my lion guards. He decided to go around them, and his plan was that he's just going to blast them off the board using his magic defense, his offensive magic spells, and destroy my white lions. And this is going to kind of cost him later on down the line. Now, it's going to cost him because we are assuming that these guys are ethereal. That's why we think it's going to cost him. And so, like I said before, this mistake in the rule had a big impact on the game, and so because of that, it kind of skewed things. But we're still doing this battle report because it's a good learning opportunity. So you can see there, he basically just moves everything up forward, sends up his units down the left-hand side. He's got his rock as well as his hard bastards. They're moving up as quick as they can to engage my infantry. He's got his huge unit of tribesmen, as well as his general, as well as his battle center bearer, kind of moving up to those forests to start engaging units there, my infantry as well. He's moved up his thunder cannons so that way he can start shooting up into my my highborn lancers, and he's also moved up his Tusker cavalry as well as his 2 mammoth hunters. So yeah, that is movement for this turn. All right, so here's a close-up of his hard bastards as well as his rock kind of moving into within charge range of my soldiers, and so that's kind of rough. And here's a close up of his 2 Thunder Cannons getting ready to volley gunfire their massively huge Sky Titan cannons right into my exposed unit of Knights right there in the middle, which I'm kind of lucky about because I have a Fire of Ward, so that might be able to mitigate some of the wounds I might be taking, but who knows, it might not. You know, you never know when it comes to dice. And also there's a close up of his tribesmen as well as his general, as well as his Kaidu Khan, as well as Stankum, making up to the center portion there of the board as well. All right, here's a close-up of his Red Rovers as well as his Mammoth Hunters, kind of swooping here on the right-hand flank. Going to be putting some pressure onto my my Dawn Patrol guys, my Inline Reavers. So yeah, we'll see exactly how that goes on here in a little bit. So that's movement. And moving out of the phase, we go directly into the Magic phase. All right, in the magic phase, my opponent gets off the +1 toughness spell, which is called, oh, I forgot what it's called. Oh, Teeth Cracker is what it's called. So he does his Teeth Cracker spell, manages to get that off to give him his Rock a +1 toughness. So that thing is already hard to try to take out anyways with its stone skin ability, and you also got such a high toughness already, so that part's going to be kind of interesting. Now, in order to get that spell off, however, my opponent rolled double 6s on that part, so because of that, he has miscast.
Klaatu, Veranda,
And he gets the one where basically you have that huge template, that 3-inch template that basically goes off and damages everybody that takes that hit with their magic dice used in order to figure out the strength of it. So it wasn't so bad because my opponent used 2 dice to get that spell off, so it only being like a strength 4 hit. So that part was kind of like the nice part about that part. And my opponent basically just loses 1 guy in his unit as well. As a consequence, he gets 3 wounds, so he loses 1 of his tribesmen, which is kind of lucky for Ogre Khans. I mean, that's the nice part about Ogre Khans, they got such a high toughness. When things like that happen with their spells, it is not as detrimental as I say it would be for my High Elves, for example, my Highborn Elves, because we only have a toughness 3 for everything, so it could have been really devastating for my army if such a thing had happened. But Burps of Blood's kind of lucky that way. So yeah, that makes it the magic phase. With magic done, we go on directly to the shooting phase. And he's put to the shooting phase, basically who his Clover crossbows that are being wielded by his rider as well as his other characters basically miss their shots and nothing really goes on there. However, when it comes to the blasting of the volley guns, oh my god, that was pretty brutal. I got actually kind of pretty lucky on that battle, on that shooting, because my opponent, his dice just literally abandoned him when he went to roll his shots. He got some like 11 shots off or something like ungodly amount like that, but unfortunately he rolled like a lot of 1s and a lot of 2s, so because of that he missed a lot of his shots. Basically 3 wounds went through, Two of those wounds got stopped with the ward save. The third one got failed and would have killed my guys, but then I used up my shield counter to ignore that wound. So yeah, basically no shooting was happening from my opponent on this part. So yeah, pretty lucky that way. So with shooting out of the way, we go directly on to the top of turn number 2 for the Highborn Elves. Alright, this is the top of turn 2 after movement for the Highborn Elves, and as you can see in this picture, I just charge everything forward as quickly as possible. I didn't want the Ogres to charge me too quickly because they have that Sons of the Avalanche special rule, which gives them impact hits whenever they charge, so I definitely wanted to take that away from them as well. So you can see there, I sent my troops in the left-hand flank, I sent them charging directly into the Rock, I sent my cavalry as well as my swordsmen, as well as my Lion Guard, as well as my Align Reavers. I basically sent them all into the holding positions to start bogging things down, and it causes as much damage as possible. So yeah, let's on to the close-ups on this one. Here's a close-up of both my Everwardens as well as my Tor Halcyon guard. They're charging right directly into the front of Fraggle Rock right there in front of my guys. So I'm feeling pretty good about that. I got a flank charge off with my Everwardens, and I got a front charge off with my Sea Guard. So hopefully between the two of them, I'll be able to put some damage on this bad boy. Here's a close-up of the charge in the center. As you can see there, I sent my Swordmasters. I sent my Sad Flutes charging directly into the midst of that huge unit of Stankum's Legion. As you can see in the back there, I also charged in my Lion Guard as well. So that way you catch that huge unit of Ogres into a pincer attack. So that's going to definitely bring the pain for the next combat phase. And as you can see in this picture, I sent my cavalry charging in as well. As you can see on the right-hand side, I sent my the Dawn Patrol, the Align Reavers. I just sent them into a line formation to take up positions between that Standing Stone as well as that forest, so that way nothing gets through that line until the first round of combat anyway. So that was the plan there. And I also charged my Aegis Watchers, my 10 Highborn Lancers, directly to the front of that massive unit of Tusker Cavalry, the Red Rovers, as well. So that way you can start engaging those guys in close combat as well. So that makes up the close-ups for this one. So with movement done, we go directly into the magic phase. Alright, during the magic phase, I get the Phoenix Rises spell off. I basically do the bubble one where basically I cause an 8 up cast. I basically put that onto my Sea Guard there. So I've got the Tor Halcyon Guard located right there. So that all those guys are now at a +1 strength. I also got that unit a shield counter as well. So that part's going to be kind of handy, especially since my opponent managed to get off that +1 toughness spell onto his Rock. So that was kind of rough. But hopefully with this 1 up strength, I can kind of mitigate some of that and maybe put a wound or two on that Rock and then hopefully just beat him with combat res. So that was the plan on this one. And then I cast off that spell, Blessings of Amhar, which gives you the 5 up ward save. I put that onto my Swordmasters where my unit wizard is located at as well. And I also managed to get off another shield count on that unit as well. Basically, the only reason why I'm getting these spells off is because I have that magical ability, which is the that magic item, which is the Book of Melodies, which allows me to roll a d6, 1d6 once per magic phase. And that's really definitely helping me out on this spell because my opponent basically threw all of his dice to try to stop that ward save from getting off, which is going to be helping me out here in a little bit. So that's magic phase on this one. And once again, I cast one more spell. I cast the Hidden Path spell onto my unit of Highborn Lancers, the Aegis Watch. And once again, we're also going to make that same mistake again with the rules. We forgot, like I said before, I thought that the Ethereal rule lasted the entire turn is what happens. But actually, once again, we looked at the rules. We found out that that is not the case, that the Ethereal special rule only lasts for the phase and is used only specifically for the movement phase, that magical movement that takes place. That's the only thing it's used for. However, we did not know that at the time that we did this battle report. We know that now, so we will not be making that mistake again for future battle reports. But once again, that was the assumption that we went on when we did this game, and so that's what happened. Just report it like it happened. So yeah, that makes up the magic phase on this part of the board. Alright, with magic out of the way, we go directly into the shooting phase. As you can see in this picture, both of my repeating crossbows, the Reigns of Tor Halcyon, they opened up with a single bolt thrower shot onto one of the Thunder Cannon on the right-hand side, which is the Sound. We opened up in that bad boy, and we sent that thing straight to hell, which is pretty awesome on that part. So yeah, definitely caused that. We did something like 6 wounds. I rolled out of the box with that one, so that Thunder Cannon is now KIA, which is pretty awesome as well. So we lucked out pretty well on that part. And because that Thunder Cannon got destroyed, the Fury had to take a panic test. It failed his panic test. It failed his reroll, even though the Battle Center Barrow was right over there. And it fled and ran for the hills. It ran something like 11 inches right up that hill. So that part was also pretty awesome, too, because I had no solution for those Thunder Cannons whatsoever because everything else was kind of bogged down. So yeah, pretty lucky on that part. So with shooting done out of the way, we go directly into the combat phase. Alright, close combat phase here on the left-hand side was absolutely pretty brutal. I wasn't able to get off that many wounds onto Fraggle Rock, which is that massive rock because of its +1 toughness. I basically had to roll 6s in order to hurt this thing. Even with the +up strength that went up to my Tor Halcyon guards as well. That didn't really help out either. Luckily, the only wounds I was able to get off was because of my captain. His name is Tanis Robin. That's the guy. He's got his ability with his halberd, with his +1 strength, kind of kind of helped me out a little bit there. Same thing with my Everwardens, but in the end, he managed to kill 4 of my Halcyon guards. He managed to kill one of my Everwardens too, as well with close combat, and we managed to combine the two of us onto him with 4 wounds on that part. What really killed him, however, was our combat res. We had rake bonuses for each one of my guys. We also got him on the flank as well in the front. We charged him. We had a BSB as well as standards for both those units, and he had a break. He basically auto-braked on that part. We couldn't pursue really because the way my formations of my guys were located at, they really couldn't do it without running into those bruisers over there as well. And plus, I was at a kind of a weird angle for my my Everwardens as well. So because of that, Fraggle Rock did get away. He ran some like 7 or 8 inches, and he just fled. No, sorry, he ran 9 inches. That's what it was, and he just started hitting back to the back of the board there. So. As far as I'm concerned, Rock's pretty much dealt with. I'm pretty happy about that. So now we just got to worry about those bruisers now. Combat between my Sad Flutes as well as my Everqueen's guards against that huge unit of ogres was actually kind of brutal as well. In the end, I lost 4 of my Swordmasters. That part was kind of rough. Ward saves didn't really do much against it. That's because the ogres have such high strength with their attacks and elves have such low toughness. However, I did manage to put 2 wounds onto his Butcher. I also managed to put 1 wound onto his Bruiser as well, so that card was kind of nice. But it basically kind of evened out between the two of us on that part. But the thing that really killed my opponent, or really helped me win this battle in the end, was my Lion Guards hitting from the back. Basically, they put 12 wounds onto that. Sorry, not 12, 13 wounds onto that unit. So I killed 3 of those bruisers in the. Sorry, not 3 of them. I killed 2 of those ogres in the back. I managed to put 1 more with a floating wound on the back of them, and that was the thing that really helped me on with that part. So after charges, combat res, same thing with banners, as well as battle center bearers, grades, and everything else like that, I basically win this combat, and my opponent has to break. And when he breaks, we catch him, we destroy him, and that unit is gone. So I managed to kill my opponent's Butcher, I kill his Battle Center Bearer, as well as Ogre, so those guys are now chopped up. We do a quick combat reform in order to help out our other units that are engaged in close combat. So you can see in this picture, I turned my Everqueen's Rangers, as well as my Sad Flutes to the right, so that way they can start dealing with those Ogres that are on the right-hand side, because that is the greater threat in my opinion. After all, Fraggle decides to turn around and try to come back in my lines. I can shoot him with my Bolt Thrower, so that's not much of a big big danger. Plus, I got my Everwarders there with a 4 ward that could definitely hold the line on the left-hand flank, and I still got a large unit of my Sea Guards still left over as well, and the only thing they're going to worry about is those 6 bruisers. However, I do have a unit of Tuskers, as well as 2 of my Math Hunters on Tuskers to worry about on the right-hand flank, so that's where most of my stuff is going. So that makes up combat there in the middle of the board. Combat between my Aegis Watch as well as the Red Rovers was an absolute nightmare for my opponent, and the reason why that was the case is because, like I said before, we thought that the Ethereal rule went in for the entire turn, so I thought my guys had Ethereal as one of their bonuses for that spell. So because of that, my opponent was unable to touch me whatsoever because he had no magical attacks within that unit. It was all basically physical attacks. Any wounds that I basically generated onto him basically led to a positive combat resolution score for me. Eventually, I do defeat him because of combat res. I think I managed to put 2 or 3 wounds on his unit in the end, but because of combat res with the charge, with the rank and the banner, they had to flee, they broke, I pursued, and we destroyed that unit, so that unit is now gone. Once again, like I said before, the only reason why that combat went my way really was because we thought we had that ethereal roll. So once again, bad news on the rule rolls. So since we won combat, we basically tested reform. As you can see there, my guys turned to the right-hand side as well to help out my aligned ravers, which are about to be destroyed by those 2 Mammoth Hunters in a little bit, and we get them in positions that way they can kind of receive the charge or make a charge if they're lucky enough to do that. So that's combat on this side. Meanwhile, combat here on the right-hand side with my Line Ravers, my Dawn Patrol versus the versus Kogan the Tracker, went as well as much as you expected to. Between impact hits and the massive amount of wounds that guy is putting out with his magical weapons, he managed to wipe out half of that unit right off the bat. The only reason why I lost this combat bad. There's just no way of getting around that. I was unable to wound him at all, and basically I just kind of like suffered because of it. Luckily, the reason why this unit kind of sticks it out is because we rolled Snake Eyes on for my break test, so they basically stand their ground, not going anywhere. So I'm kind of lucky in that way that they actually made that roll, and that way they could just stay where they're located at, but I have no illusions that these guys are going to die here in a little bit, so that part's pretty rough. So with combat phase rounded up, we go directly to the bottom of turn number 2. Alright, here's a shot of the battlefield from bottom of turn number 2 for the Ogre Khans after movement. As you can see there, a lot of things are basically moving around. Unfortunately for my opponent, his Fraggle Rock did not pass his, actually let's start with charges first. First of all, he charges in basically all the units that he can left over to do that, so that all of his units are charging directly into the ones that they can get closest to, so that part took place. Unfortunately for my opponent, Fraggle Rock, his Rock Rock, did not manage to rally. He basically continued fleeing, and he flee right off the board, so because of that, his Rock Rock is now gone. And so with that out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about the close-ups real quick. All right, here's a close-up of the Hard Bastards. They charge directly into the unit of the Sea Guards, which is actually a pretty good tactical choice for them because when he charges unit in, he did it in such a way that my guys really couldn't charge into the flank without bumping in their formation to the terrain, so that'd make it an illegal charge. So basically, it's my Sea Guard fighting those bruisers one-on-one and without any buffs for that matter. So let's still have the +1 strength, so that's gonna be kind of rough. So that's moving here, and as you can see in the top there, Fraggle Rock is now off the board because he basically ran and failed his rally test. So that's moving for this side of the board. As you can see on this right-hand side here, the Wanderer also charges directly into the front ranks of the Dawn Patrol. So those poor guys, they're going to get slaughtered this round. I just got a sneaking suspicion of that. So yeah, that makes a movement phase. And since my opponent has no more shooting and no more magic, we go directly into the combat phase. All right, combat phase is absolutely brutal for me. It was pretty brutal on this side. As you can see here, both the Wanderer and Coke on the track had no problem destroying the aligned Reavers. Actually, now I think about it, I think it was maximum damage on those impact hits caused by the Tusker. And then, of course, it's like one more smack backhand from Coke on the tracker. Just destroyed my Dawn Patrol because that both those units overrun, and they're overrun directly into my front of my Aegis Watch, which is my 10 Highborn Lancers. And I also got to apologize for the blurriness of this photo. It came out kind of blurry. I apologize for that. But anyways, that's what happened on this side of the board. Close combat on this side of the board was also pretty brutal as well. He managed to plink off some like 6 of my Sea Guards, and I managed to kill 2 of his Ogres and put one on a floating one on another one as well. So it was a pretty brutal combat between these two units. Luckily, the only thing that helps me kind of stick it out in this battle is the fact that I have a Battle Center Bear as well as my Battle Center Bear is the only thing that happened. Technically speaking, I lost this combat. I should have broke, but I failed my first break test. But because my Battle Center was in that bear was in that unit, they got to reroll and they basically stuck it out. So that part kind of helped me out there as well. So that is the only reason why my guys kind of stayed in that fight. So with close combat out of the way, we go directly to the top of turn number 3 for the Highborn Elves. Alright, so the top of turn number 3 for the Highborn Elves, and this is after the movement phase. You can see there, basically, I just sent my units moving as quickly as I possibly could to their intended targets. There's not that many targets left over on this battlefield. You have the Bruise on the left-hand side, and you have those 2 Mammoth Hunters on there on the right-hand side. So basically, I just start maneuvering everything towards those 2 objectives and planning on just wiping my opponent out. Here's a close-up of the events that are taking place on the left-hand side. As you can see with my Everwardens, which are my Flame Warden characters, all I really did is I just kind of wheeled them in such a way so that way they get a close 90-degree angle, so that way they can charge directly and impact the flank of the Bruisers my next turn. So that's basically what I was kind of going for that part, so that way they can get kind of position to charge in their next round. So still sticking it out though with my Hard Bastards, not my Hard Bastards, I'm sorry, with my Tor Halcyon Guard versus those Hard Bastards. So that's what's going on here on the left-hand flank. And here's a picture of both my Everqueen's guards as well as my Sad Flutes. They're taking out the full movement allowance that they have for their marching ability, and they're heading close to this combat where the Mammoth Hunters are engaged with my Highborn Lancers. So that makes a movement for this part of the board, and with movement over, we go directly to the combat phase. Another not combat phase, the magic phase. Alright, in the magic phase, I managed to cast off 3 different spells because my opponent was unable to stop any of my dispels from going off, from his dispel going off. As you can see there, I put 2 buffs onto my Highborn Lancers. I gave them the plus of 5 of ward save with that Reborn spell. Blessed and Heart, actually. That's the spell I gave them. I also got off the big Phoenix Rises spell as well, so that way they also get +1 strength to fight against that opponent as well. I also cast the Hidden Path on my Everqueen's Rangers, that way they can become ethereal, and I gave them the full 8 inches movements, so that we can get around a good position to flank a charge flank into those 2 Mammoth Hunters. And so yeah, that is magic for this phase. With magic out of the way, since there's no real shooting going on because everything's pretty much engaged in close combat, we go directly to the combat phase. As you can see in this picture for the combat phase, it was absolutely brutal. I managed to put 3 wounds onto the Mammoth Hunter, Kogan the Tracker. His 2 Mammoth Hunters managed to kill 2 of my guys. Well, yeah, they actually did kill 2 of my guys. But however, I did have a shield counter on that unit because of the... no, actually, he killed 3 of my guys. That's what it was. But I had 2 shield counters on that unit because I got 2 spells off of that unit as well. So the first 2 shield counters saved 2 of those guys, and the last one did not, and basically I lost a guy on that one. That's what happened. Now, fortunately for my opponent, though, because I caused so many wounds to him in return, especially with combat resolution as well as a banner, basically that Mammoth Hunter had to take a break test. And unfortunately for my opponent, Kogan, the Hunt Tracker, loses his break test. He fails. He goes to retreat. We pursue, and we basically overrun him with a Swiss Drive as well. So we basically destroyed that guy, and that guy is completely dead. So now my opponent's entire right-hand flank is now totally eliminated, and that makes a combat on this side of the board. Combat here on the left-hand side also went pretty well as well. Basically, I managed to inflict a ton of wounds onto my opponent. My opponent, basically, his dice, he only had about 2 ogres left when the combat was pretty much over. When he went to go basically to strike back, he managed to kill one more of my Sea Guard as well, so that part was kind of sad, but in the end, he had to take a break test and he fled, and when he did, my Sea Guard basically just ran him down, and he was absolutely destroyed on that part. So that makes a battle on this side of the board. And that takes us directly to the end of the game. As you can see here, basically I tabled my opponent. I destroyed all of his units. I managed to do that part. However, even though I managed to destroy all my units, my opponent's units, I think the reason why is because we made some errors with the game rules when it came to that spell, the Hidden Paths. And so we're going to talk about that here in a little bit. So for now, let's go ahead to the After Action report, because this game is now officially in the books and is now over.
I thought about staying. They offered me the chance to lead them, to teach them, to be king.
Uh-huh.
But my place is here, so I swallowed the juice, said the words, and here I am.
Did you say the words right this time?
Well, maybe I didn't say every single tiny little syllable, no, but basically I said them, yeah. Basically.
Alright, ladies and gentlemen, now it's time for the After Action report. This is the part of the battle report we talk about what went well, what went poorly, and what we can learn for the next time that we do battle. This is the After Action report for 9th Age Battle Report number 9. It was a 2,500 pounder point battle. It was fought between myself, Commander CheapSkate of my House Robin of the Wardens of Tor Halcyon of Highborn Elves versus Burps of Blood of Stankum's Legion of the Ogre Khans. And this was not a victory for Commander CheapSkate. I'm not going to count this as a victory. I'm not going to count this as a loss. And the reason why I'm not doing that is because of those rules that we made a mistake earlier with that spell, the Hidden Path. That gave me a much larger advantage than I really should have gotten. So because of that, we're not really going to count this battle as a victory or a loss. We're just going to use this as a learning experience and basically talk about what we've learned about this army since making the transition from 8th edition. So let's go ahead and talk about that real fast. First of all, there are a lot of changes with the Highborn Elves since the 8th edition of Warhammer Fantasy Battle, and those changes are basically why I think a lot of people are not really playing this army like they used to. Let's just go ahead and talk about some of those changes now. First of all, not all the units within the Highborn army have the fight in extra rank special rule. With the previous edition of 8th edition Warhammer, every single high elf unit had fight in extra rank. It didn't matter if it was swordsman, it didn't matter if it was Lothar and Seaguard. Basically, everybody had fight in extra ranks. This is not the case really that you see that in most of the units. Now, a lot of the core units, kind of like the Seaguard, especially, same thing with Spearmen, they basically have fight in extra ranks, but a lot of your special units, things like your Sword Masters, your White Lions, or in this case, Lion Guard, as well as, well, still Sword Masters, I guess, they did not have that extra fight and extra rank rules. Basically, the Phoenix Guard is the only special choice that has that, and I can see why that could actually play a factor, because you have one less extra rank of guys to be able to fight with, and so that caused a lot of problems. I can see why that might be one of the reasons why they didn't do that as well. Lightning reflexes in this game is actually what it does. It gives you +1 to hit in close combat, while as in the other edition, Always Strike First allowed you to re-roll your misses for anybody opponent that you're fighting against whose initiative was lower than yours, and that actually equaled up to a lot of re-rolls being able to use for High Elves in 8th edition that people could use to really basically just dominate the combat phase. And that's not so much the case here in the ages of the 9th Age. You only get +1 hit in close combat, which is still a actually pretty powerful ability. It's actually still pretty good, but it doesn't give you that ability like Always Strike First always did, especially when it comes to close combat. So I can see that's another reason why they kind of changed that up as well. Repeating bolt shots on bolt throwers are now extra in 9th Age. Originally with the Warhammer 8th edition, they just automatically came with the bolt throwers. The bolt throwers are actually pretty cheap at that point. They're about, I think, 75 points, 60, 75 points, I think, maybe at the most. Repeating shots on bolt throwers in 9th Age, you have to buy that. It costs an extra 20 points. What that does is it limits the amount of bolt throwers that you can take in a game, which, good or bad, any way you want to look at it. I don't really care either way because, for me, I like, the challenge of a game. So having only 2 in this army is not such a big deal, but you can't take like 4 or 5 like you used to do back in the day with 8th edition. Now, then also another big difference is also when it comes to magic. In the 9th Age, you have what's this called Master of Balance special rule, which basically gives you a +1 to channel to general additional dice, which is actually a pretty good ability in my opinion. As opposed to Liliath's Blessing, which was in the 8th edition, what they did is that gave you a +1 to cast. So it doesn't make your Highborn Elves as magically powered as they used to be in 8th edition. I think that's a lot of the factor that people didn't like about the changes and why people and I bet be playing Highborn Elves too much for this one. And like I said before, you know what? It doesn't really matter to me. I do like all the changes. Some people may not like it because maybe they can't win as easily as they used to in the past, and maybe they think it's they think that the Highborn Elves have been nerfed from 8th edition over to the 9th Age, whatever the case may be. But you know what? I like the additional challenge. always having the guaranteed ability to win every single game you play is never a fun game. So because of that, those get kind of boring real quick. I just like playing because I love the hobby and I love playing the game. So win or lose, I'm always having a good time. So because of that, I could see why some of the changes might have taken place, how I might have turned off people to Highborn Elves. But you could Highborn Elves are still a very competitive army. You can do a lot of stuff with them, but you just have to be a little smarter, use a little bit more finesse with how you use them. Like I said before, I'm not really counting this battle report as a victory, and this is because the huge mistake that was made on my part with that rule about the hidden path having a theory the entire turn. It's only for the actual. That's only used for that phase, and it's only used for movement. It's not to give your guys the entire turn. So sad friend on that part. That's why I'm not counting this one. And the reason why is because that rule mistake that we made actually won me this game. It won the game in two ways. First of all, it did my line hunters to remain uncharged. Basically, my opponent didn't charge those guys because he thought they had an ability to attack them because of lack of magical attacks on this one. So because of that, it kind of gave me an advantage when it came to the close combat phase when my line hunters charged into the rear of that unit of ogres. So that's one. And secondly, they also didn't charge against my highborn lancers too because that combat my lancers just kind of dominated because of that. So that was the reason why it kind of worked out in my favor. But either way you look at it, though, this was an interesting game to play. It was nice learning all the new rules for the Highborn Elves and seeing what the differences between them and the High Elves of Warhammer 8th Edition. So it's kind of nice seeing the differences and how some of the rules change and how some of them went away, and basically trying to figure out new ways of doing that. So, like I said before, I'm not counting this term as a victory because defeating my opponent is a rules confusion, so I'm not going to count it as a victory. But I'm not counting it as a loss either. I'm just thinking of this game as more like a learning opportunity because that's exactly what it was. It basically taught me what the differences were with all the different portions of the new rules for Ninth Age. So yeah, once again, this was a fun game. It was a fun battle report. Lots of learning taking place. I really enjoyed this game. Looking forward to playing against the Ogre Khans once again, and I'm looking forward to doing more battle reports with my Highborn Elves army. So yeah, that's gonna wrap up for this one. See you guys on the flip side. Adios.